The Radio Forest Podcast.
How are you?
Hey, what's up, guys? I've got more than one of you here. Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's right. It's Jason and David. David is our lead singer, and I am the director and producer of the show.
Guys, welcome. First question, Jason, are you ready for ski season?
Oh, man. Ski season is my favorite time of the year. I absolutely love to ski, and to be honest, I've never skied Idaho before.
You've got to. It's phenomenal. I asked that because we just kind of got some snow over the weekend up at the local mountain, and so that always kickstarts my love of the season. I'm like, I got to pick up my new pass. Maybe I should start looking at gear. And Idaho has some fantastic mountains if you ever get a chance.
What's the best mountain in Idaho to ski?
Well, you got to go Sun Valley first. And then I would say Brundage. And then I would say Brundage. Then I'd say Tamarack. Then I'd say Bogus, which is here in Boise. But I love all of them. Bogus is the local mountain, so I've got a lot of respect and love for my local mountain. It's enough for me to stay satisfied just skiing here in Bogus. But if you have time and money and the ability to drive a little bit, you got to hit up Brundage and Sun Valley. They're just, it's next level.
Yeah, Sun Valley I've always heard is great. I want to check it out. So that's, I will put that on maybe the 2026 list.
Yes. Well, David, what are you in? Not to keep you out of the loop. What are you looking forward to?
I'm more of a sit by the fireplace kind of guy. I would break my neck trying to ski.
You're going to be drinking some whiskey and some Jägermeister.
There are those people at the mountain as well, too, yeah. So we're talking to Jason and David with Black Jacket Symphony. They're coming back to Idaho, Nampa Civic Center, Tuesday, November 4th. Now, you guys have done Abbey Road, Journey's Escape, Led Zeppelin 4. Why Back in Black?
I think Back in Black is an album that stands the test of time. It's one of the greatest selling rock albums ever made. People today, that are just introduced to it fall in love with the album the same way that people fell in love with it in 1980. So, I think it's a pivotal classic rock album, and that is what we do is we recreate these pivotal classic rock albums live, note for note, sound for sound.
Oh, I totally agree with Jason 100%. It's one of those records that's the number one selling hard, rock and roll album of all time, 50 million sold. So you can't argue with that.
I always feel like saying I think it's underappreciated, and yet here we are talking about you guys covering the entire album, how it's one of the best-selling albums of all time out of all genres, let alone hard rock. And yet I don't think it gets enough love. I know what I just listed says it gets enough love, but I think people talk about Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd like they're this higher, deeper meaning. And I'm like, you can't top power chords and songs about women and booze, right?
I think perhaps the lack of a deeper meaning is part of the appeal. It's just a fun record. It's a good rock and roll, trash it up record. It's a guilty pleasure, maybe. Sophisticated, say, as Dark Side of the Moon, or is universally appreciated as an Abbey Road, but it's a guilty pleasure
that you can listen to, and you're not going to hit skip on any one song, right? You listen to it start to finish, and every single song, like Dark Side of the Moon, like Led Zeppelin 4, you're going to listen to the whole thing. And I think that, to me, is what defines, an album and whether or not it does truly stand the test of time and stands as a whole unit and as a piece, as opposed to, the sum of its individual parts.
Can you guys talk to me real quick about, as fans, how this album impacted your lives? Because this is the debut with Brian Johnson. Similar, sure, to Bon Scott if you're not a huge music fan, but you guys as musicians, drastically different. Different attitude, different sounds. It definitely shifted the band in a different direction. So when you first heard Brian Johnson on this new album as fans, how did that impact you guys?
Oh, I loved it. It was, other than, say, Nazareth, maybe Hair of the Dog, the vocalist Dan McCafferty was the first vocalist that I can recall hearing that sounded the way I sounded. And it was a very special record. I call it a soundtrack to a drunken bar fight. It's very powerful. It's very physical. It's documenting from the first song to the last, just a hell of a night, a great time.
I think it's the guitars for me. I love the vocals, but the wall of guitars, that just massive sound, the drums and all of it coming together really just it just grabs me and drives.
Now, David, is Brian a different singer? Again, I'm not a musician, but my take from it is he's kind of yelling and talking at the same time, but with melody, as opposed to like a Dee Snider or an Ozzy or like a Rob Halford that can hit those high notes. Like, he can sing high, but it's definitely a different breed. So How do you tackle that as a lead singer as opposed to singing something else?
Well, it's certainly more along the line of my natural delivery and my natural style. It's very, very aggressive. You're right. He's hitting those high notes, but it's also very powerful, very muscular. There's a lot of swagger in there. Bon Scott was an amazing vocalist, more of to me, like a street poet. The delivery, maybe a little more melodic in some areas, but Brian's vocal, I think it has to sit very nicely beside all the great rock vocalists of that era. And that style is certainly appreciated. People want to hear it. They pay money to listen to it. So it's just a great, very muscular, full of swagger delivery.
Now, are you guys playing it as the album, like as the track listing, song per song, in the order that they released it?
So note for note, sound for sound. It's as if you walk in, you put the needle down on the vinyl and hit, and it runs. That is what we do. No talking in between songs. Every guitar note, every drum hit, every bass note you're going to hear, every vocal. It is exactly as the record was recorded, only you're hearing it live, you're seeing it live. It's an incredible visual experience. We carry a tractor trailer full of lights, and let me tell you, the Nampa Civic Center, there's not a bad seat in the house. It's a rather intimate venue, and we pack enough lights on that stage that we could fill the arena down the road, with the same amount of lights. So it's a visual, just kind of an all-encompassing experience.
Jason, talk to me a little bit then real quick about the guitar sounds of AC/DC, because if you pick up a guitar and you've got the same tone, you can't play AC/DC. And I think the trick is you can't play AC/DC as a one guitarist band. It's interwoven with the mastery of Malcolm in the background and how solid of a rhythm player he was. So how do you pull that off, right? Because you could play the chords, but it doesn't quite sound like AC/DC. How do you tackle that? And, maybe this is something you have to work on for every album you guys cover.
It is something we work on for every album, absolutely. So, we have really great guitar players. We use different musicians for every show, right? Because every album is a little bit different and requires a different skill set. Now, that being said, our guitar players do play on a lot of our albums. They're incredibly talented. On this show, Ben Owens and Patrick Himes are our two guitar players, and they have worked meticulously over the years, really, to dial this in. I would say that every show, it's just getting better and better. But they have the gear too, right? They have the guitars, they have the authentic amps. They, we've actually reconed the amps with speakers that match what they recorded with in 1980. So that's a pretty cool feature. They're not using pedals because just like Malcolm and Angus, they were not pedal driven. It's all kind of in the inner workings of the head and the speakers, and they're driving those notes. It's pretty incredible.
They're using the same gauge strings. They're using the same guitars. They're using the same exact speakers and the cabinets and the same head, no pedals. That tone is coming through their fingers, just like it does with Angus and Malcolm. They're just dedicated to getting that exact tone, and that's exactly what you're going to hear.
So let me geek out for a little bit, then talk about guitars. You have one guy on an SG, and then do you have the Malcolm on the Gretsch? But Malcolm's Gretsch was different, right? He had that top pickup was gone. And I can't remember if he stuffed something in there or if he just left it open. But people were like, that's some of the magic is you could buy the guitar, but the way that he had it set up with the gauge strings and the missing pickup, that's what was the signature sound. So how deep into the woods do you get on these guitars?
They get pretty deep in the woods on them.
He has the same Gretsch guitar with the same single pickup with the hole in there where the other ones are missing. And it's a Gretsch Firebird Jet. I mean, that's Malcolm's guitar. It looks just like it.
Hey, Jason, let me ask you, what was it like, switching gears real quick, seeing the last two Beatles together live? How was that as a fan?
Oh, man. Wow, you've done your research. That was pretty incredible. It was a bizarre experience. So we were in London in December and seeing Paul McCartney, and it just happened to be there, happened to get tickets, et cetera. And we're sitting on the floor and looking over, and there's this big commotion, and it's this guy that it is the most identical Ringo Starr lookalike I've ever seen in my life. No security around him, but everybody's looking at him, taking photos. I'm like, man, that guy looks just like Ringo Starr. And I look behind him, and I'm like, wow, that guy looks like Ronnie Wood sitting behind the Ringo Starr lookalike. at one point in the show, this guy Ronnie Wood, look like not so much a look-alike, actually Ronnie Wood runs up the steps of this of O2 Arena, and next thing you know, he's on stage playing "Get Back," and then the encore comes up, and they roll out a drum set, and Paul McCartney stands up on stage and says, "Welcome Ringo Starr to the stage," and it was that was kind of the pinnacle for me. That was pretty neat.
So you didn't know either of those guys were going to show up. That had to have been the loudest moment ever. I mean, I would have been blown away. It's like seeing movies in the 80s and you didn't know the twist. Now with all the previews, you're not really that surprised. It's like Christmas as a kid. You're like, what is happening?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's you never in a million years would you expect that Ringo Starr would show up at a Paul McCartney concert and get on stage and play with him. It was magical.
David, how about you? Have you ever seen AC/DC live? Tell me about some of the shows you've seen of these guys.
Oh, I've seen them a few times over the years. One of the first time I saw them, I want to say, was in Nashville, and it was fantastic. The Back in Black album had come out, and I loved it. Had a chance to see that show and saw the classic lineup. I loved that. Saw them again a few years later when Malcolm was in hospital. And young Stevie, who's actually the guitarist in the band now, was playing rhythm guitar. He was dressed like Malcolm, playing Malcolm's guitar, and nobody knew it wasn't Malcolm. He just assumed it was. That's who it was. He looked just like him, and that was a great show.
How long does it take for the Black Jacket Symphony to practice enough to be ready to tour behind an entire album? Let's take Back in Black, for instance.
That's a great question. So we started doing this record back in 2010. That was the first time we ever did it. And so when we do any record that we do, we decide, then we assign parts, and then the guys go and they spend their time practicing and learning on their own, right? And again, everybody's meticulous, and there's no egos in the Black Jacket Symphony. The whole goal is just to recreate it as exactly and precisely as possible. So everybody does their homework, then everybody gets together in a room, and that's the most fun is when we're sitting down and everybody's like, we're playing through it, and everybody's listening to their own parts, and everybody's got kind of what they're thinking they're doing, and somebody else says, wait a second, you know what, I think actually that's a little bit off, or maybe the timing's a tiny bit, late on that, or the note's a little different there, and we go back and we listen to it, and it just perfects, and it perfects, and it perfects. And everybody really works together to blend that and mesh that individual work into the group work and put this thing together. So, it depends. I mean, they'll spend a couple of months on their own prepping for things, doing their homework. And then honestly, we come in and in about 3 days, have it dialed into the point where it's ready to go out.
Well, it's Jason and David, Black Jacket Symphony. They're doing Back in Black, note for note, in its entirety, Tuesday, November 4th, Nampa Civic Center. Guys, welcome back to Idaho, and can't wait to see you, and thanks for the chat today.
Thank you so much, Forrest.
Thank you, Forrest. Appreciate it.